The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
Welcome into another episode of Spiritual Philosophy-Chatter with the Joneses. I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And it's episode 54.
Yep, 54.
What is the title?
This is the fear factor.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's important. It's important to talk about because you know what? You can get through it.
Yeah. And we all have fears.
Yeah.
We all have different reasons for having our fears. And so I think, my hope with this episode is that maybe people will understand that they're not the only one with certain fears and that, we all have them and maybe help in some ways to try and, get through them a little bit. Yeah.
Well, before we do hop into that, you got anything from last week?
I do. I have an email that we received a couple days ago.
Cool.
This is from Jasmine. So Jasmine says, Dear Samantha and Danny, I just finished episode 53, which was about grief, unexpected grief,
right? And
wanted to say thank you for being so open with your lives and experiences. Sometimes you talk about things and I feel you are directly speaking to me. You got me a few times in this episode thinking, did they write this episode just for me? Samantha, I'm so sorry about your job loss. Thank you for being candid and honest with us on how you're dealing with that. My job was furloughed earlier this month. And you know what's funny is that we were talking about furloughing and I had just looked it up and then this email came in the next day and I was like, well, I'm glad I looked it up and I know what it is.
For sure.
If you don't know what furlough is, it means that you still have your job, but you're basically laid off, but you'll have your job to go back to.
Right.
So you're not getting paid.
Right.
Let's see. I'm one of those people that didn't see it coming. I wasn't prepared as I've been living paycheck to paycheck most of my life. I feel like my world came crumbling down with that news. I didn't realize until this episode that what I was experiencing was grief. When I was first let go, I was in shock. Then I went into denial. I kept thinking they would call and say early April Fools. Then I got mad, really mad. I cried a lot and even screamed. I still cry every day. I haven't fully accepted it yet. I don't know if I will. They are saying we may be out of work the rest of the year. Luckily, we still have our benefits paid and I should be able to collect unemployment. I just really wanted to thank you for being a support to me through this. Just knowing other people are empathetic and not judging helps me to have faith that I will be okay. Jasmine.
Nice. Thanks, Jasmine.
That was got me all choked up.
Yeah, that was cool. Thank you.
Yeah, that was very sweet.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that, during these times, which are tough for a lot of people, that it can be beneficial or helpful. It just some sort of maybe feeling like you're sitting there talking with friends and just about stuff that, maybe a lot of people don't want to talk about or it's heavy, you want to sweep it under the rug. But it is important to still talk about.
It is. And I say this to you all the time. Like when I start expressing how I'm feeling about what's going on or you are, one of the things that I always think is that, we're all doing the same thing. Like there are the essential workers, but there are so many of us that are affected by this in a financial and, job type way.
Oh, yeah.
That helps me to be a little bit more calm.
Yeah.
That if it was just our city or our state or even just our country, maybe I would feel a little bit worse, but because it's the whole world is dealing with this, it gives me a little bit of a better feeling. If that makes sense.
Yeah, because you essentially realize you're not alone.
Right. Exactly.
This isn't maybe some of the things we're going to get in today's topic.
Yeah.
This isn't a personal thing that you carry inside, and it's affecting everybody. So
exactly. So we are all in this together.
Yeah, hang in there, Jasmine. Hang in there, everybody.
Yep, we'll get through this.
Yes,
we will.
Awesome. Well, anything? Is that it?
That's it.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, how about episode 54 then? The fear factor.
The fear factor. I always try to explain a little bit of how these episodes come to me. This one was very different. A lot of times I'll be in the shower and I'll just get an idea for an episode. But this one, I had a really hard time developing into what it was And so we sat down and talked about it, and that went kind of a different way than where I thought it was going. And so when I meditated on that, what I realized was that a lot of the conversation that we had was about fear and about how what's happening is making us have so much fear that it's coming out in different ways. And it's stopping us from feeling secure enough to continue on the paths that we were on, because we feel like what we thought was right there, what was put just right there in front of us, was taken away.
Right.
And so I realized that this is fear, and that this is something that, just like grief, a lot of us are dealing with right now. We all have fears. I'm not just talking about what's going on right now. I'm talking about in every different area, of your lives.
Yeah.
We all have fears. It's something that we can all relate to each other on and talk about. So
For sure.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I did in the discussion group, because I wanted to find out what exactly our listeners, what their fears are.
Okay.
But first, I'll give you the definition of fear. It is, what is fear? An unpleasant feeling triggered by the perception of danger, whether real or imagined. It's a powerful and primitive emotion. Fears can be divided into two groups, biochemical and emotional. So biochemical is like, how we have the flight, what was that? Flight or fight response. That's kind of the biochemical, where your body just has this reaction.
Natural knee-jerk reaction.
Exactly.
A very important word in that definition, though, which does apply to a lot of this fear we call, is perception.
And imagined. Because it's as real or imagined. And fears, for a lot of people, they're not usually real.
Right.
They're created by us. And we're going to get into that a lot for sure. So let's see. Let's talk first about what some of our listeners said are their top fears.
Okay.
The most common ones that we got were spiders and snakes, drowning, heights, fear of a loved one dying, and fear of flying. Those are the most common amongst our listeners. When I started doing the research for this, I wanted to know what are the most common among just the regular general population. And what I found out is that the number one fear that people have is social anxiety, things that give us social fears. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Because none of our listeners really looked at that as a fear. Like, I didn't give them a list to choose from. I just said, tell me what your fears are.
Yeah.
And nobody talked about social anxiety. I found that very interesting, but that is number one.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Because I kind of feel like, based on the definition, for me, that a big majority of our fears are perception or imagined.
Yes.
So if you want to take theatrics, for instance, like movies and things like that, yeah, you might be afraid of The Exorcist.
Right.
Or The Shining or something like that. That's kind of surface what I'm talking about. I'm talking more in-depth type of fear, but I don't even remember the point.
That's all right. Well, I was talking about social anxiety.
Okay.
And so I did ask our listeners, after I looked that up and it said that social anxiety are the biggest types of fears, I asked the listeners if they had anxiety in social situations. And 75% said yes or sometimes.
That was going to be my point, is that because I feel a majority of our fears are perception or imagined, that really the majority of the true fears is that.
Yes. That's right. Some of the most common fears besides social issues is heights, flying, enclosed spaces, insects and snakes, dogs, storms, needles, and open spaces.
Open spaces, that's an interesting one.
You know what? It is, but I get that. Like, I have a very different type of fear. Like, I don't like heights, but I can handle looking down more than I can handle looking up.
Right.
I don't know why that is. So I can relate to that one of like open spaces, because if there's nothing above me, sometimes it really trips me out.
Yeah.
It's strange.
Yeah.
We all have our thing. And for me, that physically throws my equilibrium off.
Yeah.
Like when we went to Epcot and we were standing under the big ball and I was trying to look up at it, it makes me dizzy.
Yeah.
And so I just look at that as that's some kind of fear of heights. But maybe it's not, you know?
But you're down there looking up.
I know, isn't it weird?
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
I remember when we went to Yosemite and Maria, we pulled off on that vista lookout over Half Dome and El Capitan. And me and Marina went up on these big rocks to kind of get as high up as we could. And I literally, my legs got like rubbery because of the height, looking down and going, wow. We were nowhere near the edge of a cliff or anything, but it really...
It's overwhelming there.
I'm like, Marina, hold on a second. I had to like hold on to her while I got down.
It was cute.
Total old man moment. I'm like, okay, this doesn't work for me anymore. That was new for me because...
Yeah.
Not that I like to stand at the top of a tall building and look straight down, but heights were never like a big issue. I'd go on tall roller coasters or whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't, but that was the first time I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting down now.
I think as we get older, you know, our ears and we have ear issues, those probably contribute as well, where,
it's a sense of vertigo.
It is, exactly. And then that turns into a fear of, oh my gosh, what's happening to me? I have to get off of here, you know. I love roller coasters. But I can't handle the up, you know?
Yeah.
I like the ones that shoot you off or that are inside. The ones that do that, the slow incline.
That's playing on your fear.
It's totally playing on my fears because I'm like, what if it gets stuck?
This whole ride is super fast, except that going up the first hill, they can only move one little gear at a time to get you up there.
God. And then there's one at Magic Mountain, that Goliath, that they stop you at the top when you get there and like make you feel like you're stuck.
Yes.
I would panic.
I had huge fears of roller coasters as a little kid. And I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I remember my dad took my sister and I to Canal Valley Days and put us on this little roller coaster there. And I screamed and cried for my mom. I held on to my sister so tight. And as soon as we got off, she's all, don't ever make me go on another roller coaster with him again. But I got over it.
Yeah.
You know? And there's certain ones I won't go on. But there's ones that I love. I probably couldn't do it too much now.
Yeah.
Jerk you around a little too much. But
yeah. I think, you know, when you're a kid, that those things are big. They're scary.
Yeah.
You know, you have to.
That's why with Marina, it was fun for us because we were still at a point where we could do it. And so
taking her on her first
showing her like,
looping coaster.
Because my parents wouldn't go on with me. And if your parent will do it with you, then you're pretty convinced it's safe and you'll probably like it. Most of them she did.
She did. Yeah. She still does. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So then the next thing that I asked our listeners was, how much do their fears control them? Is this something that they don't really think about, you know, thinking of what their biggest fears are? And most of the listeners said that it doesn't control them just a little bit, that there are things that maybe they adjust in their life or maybe make them more cautious to avoid these certain fears that they may have. Most people with deep fear said that they started from a previous experience. I can tell you, for me, a few of my biggest fears now, one of them is death of people close to me. I know where they're going. I know they're going to be better off there. But because of the way that I lost my mom and because of the way that I lost my dog, Sierra, I am always afraid of losing somebody quickly.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing if you have the time to deal with it and say goodbye, but when it's quickly, it's miserable. So that definitely is one of my biggest fears.
That would be one for me,
Yeah. And lightning is another one, too, that was one that it was a learned behavior. Because here in California, we don't have a lot of lightning and thunderstorms at all. But when I was a kid, I think I was like 10 or 11, there was the one lightning storm that I think I've heard here in California when I was a kid. And my grandma woke me up in the middle of it because the lightning had struck a field across the street, and, you know, there was a fire. And so she thought I would be safer downstairs. And because I had to go through that instead of just sleeping through it, it created this fear of lightning for me. So, and then I have reoccurring dreams of being struck by lightning. So, but as I've gotten older, I have been able to get rid of that fear for the most part. I have learned that it's a natural part of life and that these things do happen and that the chance of being struck by lightning is very rare.
Yeah.
But when you're a kid or when you're just growing up, you don't realize these things. People don't teach you these things.
I think adults don't want to explain it to scare you more.
Right.
Because your mind maybe not able to quite process exactly what they're telling you.
Right. Like in my grandma's head for that thunderstorm, it was get her downstairs so that she's safe.
Right.
But it really did damage, but she wasn't thinking that way.
Right.
So we have to talk about our kids with their fears. And a lot of times they hold things inside too,
Right. Like, your grandma might have, a lot of it could just be wording.
Right. That's exactly
Maybe if she
right.
would have said, let's bring her downstairs where she feels more safe.
Right, exactly.
Not that there's any relevance to any danger
Right.
going on because there's a lightning, you're
Right.
inside. But
Exactly. Yeah, it was a bad experience. And so I can understand others that said they have storm and lightning related issues.
right.
A couple of ones that our listeners said, Kate says that she experienced a tornado as a young child. And when I get stressed out, I have reoccurring nightmares of tornadoes.
Wow.
That's interesting. I wonder if my lightning nightmares are like when I'm more stressed. I'll have to pay more attention to that because she has a point there with that. And then Patricia said, I have a tremendous fear of claustrophobia, which is being enclosed. That comes from issues in childhood. Elevators and drive-through car washes are awful.
Right.
Elevators used to be an issue for me when I was a kid too.
Right.
And this is one of the things that I had to get over. And the way that I got over it was I was in Hawaii and my mom made me go up and down the elevator to, like, I can't remember what floor we were on, but it was pretty high.
Right.
By the time we left Hawaii, I was over that fear because once you do something so long that you realize that it's
Right.
not really a big deal, it can
Right.
help you conquer those.
These
those
ones
things.
are more, a lot of what kind of we shared so far are sensory fears.
Yes.
Is that what this would fall under?
Yeah, I think you're right.
So they're based on geographical events or
Right.
things in the world.
Right.
I think back to what you were saying before about the social anxiety or that part and the fear, the amount of fear that plays a role in us, is that's concerned is the other side that's not like the sensory fear. It's more, I don't know what category I'd be guessing, a subconscious fear, and that is fear of rejection,
Right.
fear of failure,
Yes.
fear of success.
Right.
These things can be implanted in us at a very young age.
Yes.
The fear of love,
Oh, yeah.
fear of giving love, fear of accepting love. These things can be planted in us, unfortunately, by unhealthy situations that we've been around. I was sharing with you about a really close friend that I lost recently, and he was always so scared and had a huge fear of like talking to girls.
Yeah.
And his whole life, and I would try to pump him up and just help him any way I could. Like, he was a very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And he died never having a relationship, being a virgin, and that part kind of breaks my heart because he was such a gentle guy.
Yeah.
Such a lovely guy. And now that I'm older and I've been out in the world a little bit and I've seen the different kind of people that there are, I know that there was somebody for him.
Absolutely. He was just really afraid to get out there and try
afraid.
and
He was
find that
crippled
person.
by that fear.
Yep.
And I hadn't seen him for quite some time, and maybe about 7 years ago I got to see him one last time, and it was weird. It was like he was stuck there.
Yeah.
In high school, and like the things that he was telling me about his fears of, oh, I see this girl when I go at lunch. I go to this place and there's this girl, and the way he describes her was just how he did then.
Yeah.
And then the way he talked about his shyness and his fear of wanting to say something. And
Right.
so I would say, just go in there a couple times a week and say hi, and then maybe each time try to start a conversation.
Yeah.
And might be hard to do if you got a line of people at lunchtime. But anyways, so that thing, that's a fear of rejection.
Yes.
And that can cripple you.
Yes.
And keep you from maybe achieving certain happiness levels in your life.
And it's interesting that you bring that up and say that, because when I was looking at the list of, like, I asked people what are their fears, you know, and like I said, I didn't give them a list. I just let them tell me what their fears were. And most people, actually all people, except for losing people, dying, nobody really talked about fear of success or fear of lack of success or fear of a failure or you know, all those other things that you mentioned. And so then I started thinking, well, why didn't they? And thinking that maybe these things that we worry about, these unnecessary things, are covers for the things we're actually afraid of.
Yeah, that's
takes our focus off of the things we're actually afraid of.
Yeah, like, here, I'll just be afraid of this.
Right.
And
I'll ignore this other thing.
I'm afraid of being alone, you know, and
yeah.
So I'll subject myself to the worst possible relationships that I can, because I don't want to be alone.
There's a lot of people that do that because they are afraid that they're not going to find somebody else. But there's always somebody else out there looking for somebody just like you. There's the lid. There is for every can.
Yeah.
There is.
You know, there's so many people. It's unreal.
Yeah.
There would have to be. And I know it. I've seen people in different walks, different places in my life, and thought, oh my God, this person would have been perfect for this person.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Too bad they never met.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Life has this way of testing you. And especially like when it comes to money and love and things like that. And you'll be presented with the same kind of situation over and over until you make changes. So if you keep going into these bad relationships and you keep getting thrown more bad relationships, it's not because you're doomed to be in a bad relationship, because you're not learning, because you're not stopping it before it gets too bad. You just keep going with it. So, and this is something that I've really learned from doing all of these readings online, all these love readings, is this is really how it is. If you are in a bad relationship and you want to finally be in a good relationship, then you need to say, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And when you face that again, you again say, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yes.
And then you'll be presented with what you want because you passed that test.
And again, because you faced it, I think you sort of realize that, wow, most of that was my own perception.
Yes.
My own imagined outcome of what was going to happen is what I was afraid of. And
that's
so
right.
The fear can allow us to, like I said, even keep us from wanting to succeed.
Right.
You know, I don't know how I'm going to handle that if I actually achieve my goals.
Right.
So people won't do it. And then there's this, I'm afraid of failure. And that can maybe drive somebody to be a complete, total workaholic, ignore their family.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that can have a complete opposite effect, that type of fear.
Absolutely.
The fear of rejection, you know, if somebody's not going to accept me, you know, for the way I am, how I look. That's a big one in our society.
It's huge.
That's a messed up one.
It is.
That we need to get past.
Yeah, we've created it.
Yeah, we sure have. It's such a problem. And I would say, well, it affects boys, men too, but it's probably a bigger issue for the female gender in our society.
Oh, yeah.
And that can do a lot of damage.
That's exactly right. It's really, those types of things are your perception of yourself, because you're never going to see yourself how somebody else sees you and vice versa. So stop trying to see yourself from their eyes. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Just have to be you, which is very difficult, but that's something that I've definitely learned as I've gotten older, is just be you. And if you're going to attract the right people, if you're just you, if you try to pretend somebody that you're not going to attract the people that are supposed to be your people.
Yeah.
You're attracting the wrong people.
And I didn't grow up in a household that my parents told me that I was ugly and disgusting. And, you know, where did I make that up?
Right.
You know what I mean? In my mind it's you have to ask yourself that.
Yeah.
Like, well, maybe some people did grow up in a household that that happened, and that sucks.
Yeah.
But for me personally, that didn't happen.
Right.
You know, I had a lot of aunts and females around me that, oh my God, you're so cute, the curly hair and the freckles and, you know, Casper White and
But you were so self-conscious about
I was
it.
self-conscious about it. You know, I saw the guy with the tan and the long straight hair and
Me too. Yeah.
that's what I wanted to be instead of embracing who I was
That's exactly right.
as a person. Now, sometimes with age that happens and you get wiser and older. And fortunately for me, I saw that. I realized that has very little. I used to have a lot of hair, first of all, curly, massive hair. And then when I got older, I grew it long and it was just out of control. And if somebody told me in high school, you're going to be bald as a cue ball by the time you're 20, you'll be shaving it clean, you know?
Yeah.
I thought, no way.
Yeah.
Not 20, a little past 20, but because that was such a part of me, my personality.
Yeah, that you lost that.
Or I don't know if it's personality, but just what I liked. And so, but then I realized how irrelevant that really is.
Right.
Now that I'm here at this point in life, we hear our daughter talk a lot about some of these social things with us, and we try to tell her that, just like my parents did, you know.
And we didn't listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's growing up is tough. The youth is wasted on the young, they say, because if I could go back and be Marina's age with the knowledge that I have now, it would be totally different. But that's the point. We're not supposed to have that knowledge as a kid. We're supposed to learn those things and grow from them, and that's
we
life.
communicate a lot more with her about a lot of issues than our parents did with us.
Yeah, and more honest. My mom was she would lie about everything to try and get me to, you know, she's like, I didn't have sex till I was married. Okay, sure you didn't.
Right.
But I heard that one until I was an adult.
It was just a different time, you know, and that's how people did things.
Right.
Now it's a different time for us. So I had to look at the pros and cons of my growing up and what did I like and what did I not like.
Right.
And now it's my chance to sort of make that change within my life and my parenting in hopes that my child will grow up lacking some of those fears that I did.
That's very important, I think. It's hard, but it's very important.
Yeah.
So on that list, another thing that surprised me was that people did mention losing loved ones, but nobody said that they were a fear of death itself for themselves. And so I thought, are they just not thinking on that level? So I asked that question, are you afraid to die? And 60% said yes because of what they will leave behind here. And 20% said yes because I'm afraid of where I'm going when I die. And the other 20% said no, either because they've accepted it, that they're going to pass, or they know they're going to a better place. I can tell you as a medium that anybody that's afraid to die, you don't need to be.
Nope.
There's nothing but beauty after this.
Yeah.
It's like going home. Yeah. It's like waking up from this nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. You learn that this is the hell.
So it is, especially
and this is
right
a beautiful
now.
hell. I'm not knocking it. God, thank you. But this is the test. So it's like getting up, leaving your family and going to work for the day. It's going home afterwards.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah. It's like people want to know, why is there bad things that happen here? Why did bad things happen to good people? Blah, blah, blah. All of that fits in to the fact that this is life. And if we didn't have those things here, it would be just like the other side. And we have to learn things. And each of us has our own story through life. And everything affects us all differently. And so how we let that story play out is why these things happen.
Right.
And things will happen to you. Like, I was thinking in the shower today, I'm 42 years old. And from what I've been told, I'm halfway through my life. Exactly halfway through my life. And 42 years has been a lot of time. There's a lot that's happened in 42 years. Yeah. A lot of good, but also a lot of bad. And I think about, oh my God, do I have to go through that much bad again? But that's life, and that's how you learn, and it's just the way
why we're here.
Thank you. So that for me, I think is one of the reasons that during this pandemic, I can stay more calm is that I do realize it's happening for not just one reason, but a lot of reasons. And it will unfold the way it needs to, and it will be behind us just like a lot of those other things in my previous years.
Yeah.
It's hard to see that, but once I really got a grip on that, it made me a much more calm person.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be up and down.
Right.
It's not going to just be up all the time. But for me, I have a lot of fears of what are in those next 42 years. What are those bad things? And I try not to talk myself into what they could possibly be, because we all know you're never going to figure it out to begin with. So why do that? But then I look back at my mom and my grandma, and they worried so much. They spent so much of their time worrying about their future that they didn't enjoy the present. They really
my mom
didn't.
did that a lot.
Yeah.
Does that, you know.
So I'm trying to not be like that.
It's part of that. Again, I don't know if that's that generation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see that.
Yeah. When I was putting this episode together, I was reminded by my grandmother of this book that I gave her years ago. It says, Why Worry? Because she was the biggest worrier ever. And what's funny is I don't know what year this was, but I always called her Ma. My entire life until she got sick, I called her Ma. And then it seemed weird taking care of her and calling her Ma. It was, I don't know how to explain it. So I started calling her Kit Kat and Kitty and Grandma Kitty. And anyways, so this takes me way back that
That's
it says
cute.
Ma
Like
in
a little
it.
pocket book.
It's a little pocket book. It has a little like dangly thing on it. And everything in here is different reasons not to worry. And there was a couple of things that I turned to that I wanted to read because I felt like they pertain to us, but there's also people that these will reach. One of them says, enough of the dress rehearsal, get on that stage.
Yeah.
And then this one says, some forks in the road require you to take both paths. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're like, which one?
That's where I'm at.
Yeah. But you realize I have to take both. I have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. The very first one that I turned to was very interesting because the number is 28 that shows up on this page, which is one of Marina's numbers, but it's also my grandma Kitty's birthday.
Yeah.
And this was Kitty's book. But the one next to it says, you'll never know what's behind the door if you don't open it.
Yep.
And that is the basis of fear.
There's always a risk involved.
There is.
There's always. But you know what? That's why we're here.
Yes.
We were put on this planet that has geographical events and catastrophes, and it has sadness, and it has death, and it has a lot of beauty and a lot of life and a lot of love.
Right.
It's all there for learning.
Yes.
But
Exactly.
I will say, based on that, I mean, that's why we're here.
Right.
That's why we chose to come here, and we will probably come here again, because there's so much to learn here. You can't fit it all in one lifetime.
Right.
You just can't. There's so much, and there's so much that I've missed. There's so much I've got, and there's so much that I will miss, and there's so much that I will get. But I will be honest that, the fear of death for many years crippled me.
Me too.
It made me not want to. I'm not really a thrill seeker, like that kind of a risk taker.
Right.
I don't ride half pipes and jump off dirt bikes. Some people do that. I think it's great.
Yeah. Hey, if you
I wish, and I've heard people say when you don't really realize how you're living, you don't really realize you're living until you've pushed yourself out of your comfort zone.
That's right.
And that's true.
Yep.
I do get that.
Yep.
So I sought things like religion and different things, groups for myself, seeking some sort of, this is way before I met you, seeking some sort of connection to the other side because I was afraid to die.
Right.
Kind of like somebody said in there, I was afraid of where I was going.
Yes.
And that has a lot to do with, the things that I subjected myself to, and that were put into my head without my consent sometimes, you know?
Right.
And so I was seeking this, and many years later, meeting you and then finally having this experience was like, I am not afraid anymore.
Right.
I'm not afraid. I actually look forward to it. I don't want to die right now.
Right.
I want to die when it's my time.
Right.
But I I look forward to it.
Yes.
I look forward to being home.
I do too.
And to have a greater knowledge of exactly what the hell this whole puzzle is here
I want to know
on this planet, and why I really chose, to come here. There's so much more enlightenment on that side
there is.
that you are given that you're not given here. So, because if you were, it's giving the answers to the test before, before the test. I kind of look at this analogy with this pandemic, and then I'll let you talk. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Is that Mother Earth is essentially being like a mother right now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And let me put it in this kind of analogy is like you're a bad child. You've been misbehaving. Your room's a mess. It's not clean. You're not being respectful. Get in your room and don't come out until it's clean and until you can be respectful to one another.
That's right.
There is such a bigger lesson in this pandemic than just being clean and washing our hands and coughing in our elbows. There's so much more to this.
There is. And there's things that I've predicted over the last week that I don't want to get into here, but I feel like we're going to be, it's like a purging, that there's things that are going to start really purging themselves here over the next couple of months, things that need to be rid of from our world, and it'll be interesting to see how things unfold. But this is all happening for a reason. There's a way bigger picture than there's a virus going on.
Right.
That's the little itty bitty part of it.
It really is time for us to take time for us.
It is.
And to start listening. It's like Earth trying to tell us, listen, just quiet your mouth, and everybody just listen to what you feel.
Right. Don't let your fears get in the way. This is a place where even now it's like, I realize that for me, this happened for a lot of reasons. And one of them is so that I can work from home. And that's what I wanted. But now it's like a part of my fear. Does that make sense? Like it's change, and change is very, very difficult, and it's very hard. And because I'm having a hard time with it, and I'm like, give me my pet sitting back.
That's
just
one
give
that
it
we
back.
forgot real fast, is that many people fear change.
That's right. Yeah, it's a huge one, is change.
Yeah.
Yep. And why do we do that? Like, that's the thing in relationships too, is that we may be so like, I'm done with this relationship, and then you're done with it for a few days, and you're like, but wait, come back. That's fear of being alone. Right. My wanting to go back to pet sitting, which I really don't, but the reasons why those things happen in my mind is, first of all, because I fear what's going to happen without it. I fear that I'm going to let it go, and that my new career as a psychic isn't going to make the kind of money that I need it to, even though I know it will, even though I know I have the potential to make what I need. I still have that fear. I still don't want to let it go.
Right.
I miss the animals. That's a whole different side of things that I'll have to deal with.
Right.
But it really is fear.
I think somehow we think maybe we can keep it from coming if we fear it enough, like
you're right,
resist it enough. But when you really, really think about it, change is happening all the time, every single day, every second of the day. Yeah. Your body's changing, you're aging. There's nothing you can do to keep it from happening. Things are going to change. Yep. You can make changes right off the bat immediately for yourself. Right. That's a given. But natural changes and changes outside of your own control, like the Serenity Prayer, I used to lean on that a lot. Yeah. Because it really made me differentiate the difference between what can I change and what can't I. Right. Why don't I focus on the stuff I can change and not worry about what I can't, and whatever is going to change, I just have to accept that.
That's a very good point.
And kind of what the acronyms that I've heard before is, F everything and run.
For fear, yeah.
For fear. Or face everything and recover.
Yeah. And that's really the truth.
Yeah.
Because if you run, you're just going to have to keep running. But if you stop and face the fear, then you'll be able to deal with it. Yeah. I'll give you an example. One of the biggest fears on this list was fear of flying. Okay. So let's look at the statistics of fear of flying. You have a 1 in 5.4 million chance of dying in a plane crash. The last plane crash in the United States was 2009 when the plane went into the Hudson River and everybody survived. We remember that one. but the last fatal one was a couple months after 9/11. That was 2001. So you can see that there's been no American crash in that long. Yet there are so many people getting on a plane every day that think that they're going to die on that plane ride to wherever they're going.
Yeah.
It's so much safer than car, which we drive in, well, not anymore, but we drive in every day, you know, for the most part, which we're used to. It's something we're not used to. Okay. So I had this fear. This fear was built into me by my mother. And then I decided, you know what? I want to travel. I don't want to just stay in California the rest of my life. And if I want to travel, I need to get over my fear of flying. And I took an online course and I started flying more and I'm over it. I get nervous. I'm not going to say I don't, but there are things that you can do to get over these fears. A fear of flying, I'm sorry, I have to say it, it's an irrational fear. It's because you're not in control or, you know, we all have our different reasons why we might hate it. You know, for you, I think it's the control issue. Well, for me, it's the control issue. I don't like somebody else to be in control, but you realize that this is a plane. They're bringing it up into the air. It does pretty much everything on its own, you know?
Honestly, if I had to put it up against, you know, all the other possible ways of leaving this world, plane crash doesn't really sound that bad to me.
As long as it's fast.
It'll be fast. I mean, not the downhill down to it, but the it's over when it's done. Yeah. So
definitely. I mean, everything has its downs. Nobody wants to die in a fiery plane crash or car crash or anything, but the odds of it happening to you are so small. You're more likely to be struck by lightning twice than to die in a plane crash. So go out there and get in a plane. And if you're still afraid to take that course, you know, they're free online. You can. So then when I started thinking about that, then I started thinking about, okay, so what's one of the biggest fears right now is there's so many people that are afraid of getting the Rona. Dun, dun, dun. So that was one that I had to use statistically for myself to realize that I'm probably not in that much danger and I need to relax. And I think that that's something that people need to look at right now, that if you can't talk yourself out of it logically, like, well, if I get it, I'll deal with it or whatever, you have to look at the statistics of it and say, the chances are, especially if I'm social distancing and taking care of myself, I'm not going to get it. You know, it's not like in the air everywhere. It's, you know, it's not like you walk outside and you're infected by it. But like for us, so we live in a town of 126,000 people. And they've now split the coronavirus statistics in half for our town because we have the most population. So they've split it in half, but our area still has the most cases. It has, so in Simi Valley, we have 125 cases, and in Simi Valley alone, we have, I mean, on our side of Simi, we have 93 of those cases. So my mind goes to, oh my gosh, we have more cases than anybody else in Ventura County. We must be at real risk. Well, no, that's not the case. I read an article today that said that we have the biggest population, and we have for a lot of first responders that live here. So you have to have like facts too. You can't let yourself get crazy with small things. Right.
And you take a city like Oxnard. You know, let's compare it to a city like Oxnard, which I think was kind of in the running with us for the highest numbers for a while. I don't know what they are now, but city of Oxnard's pretty big. Okay, city of Simi is 7 miles long, and I think about 4 miles wide. So there's a lot of people crammed in this little town.
There is.
And to the fact that they need to now split the zip codes to report the numbers shows that there's a lot of people crammed in this town.
There is, absolutely. So, but another thing to look at with this, like I got our county numbers because this is just an example, but for example, there are 476 active cases in our county. 16 people have died. Okay, in the total county, there's 846,000 people. So 16 of that 846,000 have died from this. They've all had pre-existing conditions. Now look at what your statistics are. They are so small that maybe you'll get it. But to die from it, your statistics are so small that when you worry about it and stress on it, all you're doing is weakening your immune system.
Yes. I mean, it's like, yes, be cautious.
Yes.
You know, have a level of worry that might be sensible enough that makes you just follow the protocol.
Right.
But letting the fear cripple you,
Yes.
that is something totally different.
Once you talk yourself into something, it's really hard to talk yourself out of it.
Is.
Even when somebody has logical solutions to it, you're still like, no, I'm going to be that one person. I'm going to be the, it's just fear can really, really cripple your mind.
Sure can.
Yeah.
One of that popped out of me, if we can just rewind, is from the book that you shared. Something about just get on that stage or something.
Yeah, this isn't a dress rehearsal.
Yes, and this is, for me, like as an artist, as a musician, had I never taken the risk, the first time when I ever tried to get up on stage and play in front of an audience, which I'm sure it sucked. That's totally okay.
Well, yeah, you got to learn.
You got to learn.
Yeah.
You can't be, unless you want to spend 20 years in your room by yourself and then step out and do it, and it might work. But I had to take the risk.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You did, yeah.
To get where I am today.
Yes.
And where I am today is that, as far as I'm concerned, I play with some of the best musicians, if not the best musicians in this city or county.
Yep.
All right. Like, and sometimes I want to pinch myself. Like, how did I don't belong here. How did I deserve
I
this?
understand.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not that good. And then I realized, you know what? No, I'm not an Eddie Van Halen. I'm not Yngwie Malmsteen, a virtuoso. I'm like a team player.
Right.
I fit where I know I fit. Mm-hmm. And I contribute to what I know I can contribute to.
Right.
Same thing with my art. Had you not pushed me, you need to do these. You need to do more of these and share these with people. Had I not taken that risk, I'd still be sitting there with one piece going, I did this in like 1990. Pretty cool, huh?
I thought about doing more, but
yeah, one day I'll do more. And I said that for 25 years to one of my really good best friends. I told him when I did that first one, I took it to an art exhibit at Ventura College. It was like a educational Olympics. And I got like a second place prize for it.
Yeah.
Or, a ribbon.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And I said to my best friend who went with me that day, and two of them, and I said, one day I'm going to do like a whole series of my favorite musicians, just people that I love.
Yeah.
And I swept it under the rug for 25 years.
Yeah.
Because I was scared.
Mm-hmm.
Why was I scared? I just had a great response.
Right.
Yet I was still crippled by fear.
Right. But why? Yeah.
I don't know if it was fear of failure.
Right.
Fear of success.
Both.
But both. But it wasn't until, fast forward that many years later, and you're telling me you need to share this.
Right. Well, a lot of what's said to you comes through me from the other side.
I think
too.
we do that for each other.
Oh, absolutely.
We are spirits inside bodies.
Yeah.
And we are connected to the other side, whether you realize it or not. You have to figure out the way to open yourself to that side. But absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll say things that, like Jasmine said today.
Yeah.
That I don't even know where it came from.
Right, exactly.
But it's meant for somebody. You'll say the same things. And it's even into us in our own personal lives and things like that. I can hear your mom tell me things as you're saying something.
Yeah.
And I know it's most of the time things you don't want to hear.
Right.
But it's like...
They're usually things that she's already told me. And then what happens is it comes out of your mouth exactly the way she says it to me. And I'm like... Grr.
And I'll catch that. Like, that's funny. I wouldn't normally even say something like that. But
it's nice for me, though.
I'm feeling compelled.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
No, it's nice because, then I have somebody that does that for me now. And, you got to have it straight.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you just have to have somebody shoot straight with you, even if it's difficult to hear. That's a part of the fear.
Yeah. I think me, in this process now where I've been is like I'm afraid that, or I live in the fear that, like you said, we were so close.
Yeah, so close. It was right there. Well,
no.
But
I'm like, why am I telling myself this is over?
Right.
Like,
and
why am I buying all this baloney?
Yeah. You don't know if you were close. You felt close.
Yeah, I felt close.
Right. But we don't know.
And I'll feel close
to go.
again.
Right.
when things resume to what they were,
Right.
you know. But yeah, so there's a level of that of like, oh man, I'm so close. I wanted to share. I just want to get
Yeah.
out there and share all this, and it's like,
Yeah.
but you know what? We're still sharing. We're still
Yeah.
doing what we need to do.
We're learning, we're growing, we're building.
But like Mother Earth said, get in your room and clean it up, and don't come out until it's clean, until you can be respectful. That's the time we're given.
It is.
Is now.
Yep.
To really look at ourselves first.
Yep.
Let's stop pointing fingers at each other and look at ourselves first.
Exactly.
And then I think we'll have a better understanding of each other.
Right. It's really hard for people to grasp the concept of everything happens for a reason, but it does. This is happening for a reason. We may not know what that reason is 100% right now, but we will. We will someday. It has to unfold. We have to let this story unfold, and that's where our fear kicks in, is that we don't know where it's going to go or how long it's going to go on for, or how long it's going to impede our lives. But you know what? We will get through it.
You made a great point there, though. It's a story.
It is a story.
Mother Earth it has a story, and she's alive, we're alive, and we are all part of this story.
It's a big part of our story. Like, I've talked so many times about writing books, and there will definitely be books that will be about my life in general. And this is a good part of it. Like, I didn't see this part coming, but in a book about my life, you throw in a pandemic and it's like, whoa, you just shot it up there, you know?
Right.
So like, I'm kind of keeping track of everything that's happening because, you know, one day this will be history. And we'll look back on it and be like, we lived through that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I wanted to talk about is how to get past your fears. Because our fears a lot of times do stop us from living. They do. So I did a little research on this, and because we're just as much along with everybody else, we just both need to learn how to deal with our fears as well. Still learning. One of the things it says is understanding the fear. So recognizing that your fear is worse than the reality. So for example, if you're afraid of black widow spiders, most likely you're not going to get bit by a black widow spider.
Right.
But a lot of what might be in your head, what you think, might just be in your head. I had a friend recently last week that was bit by a black widow spider. And she was, you know, a little uncomfortable for a day, but no big deal.
Right.
When you see something like that happens, not that I want to get bit, but it calms you down a little bit. You need to be realistic. You need to face those fears and realize that, you know, will this happen? Maybe, probably not, you know.
Right.
Don't let that control you.
No.
Talk about your fears without holding back. There's fears that I have that I won't talk about to anybody else but you, because I know that they're crazy. But you have to talk about them.
Yep.
You have to get it out, because if I just sat here and held it within myself, it would be worse. But when you talk about it, when you hear those words come out of your mouth, a lot of times you realize that sounded stupid.
Yeah.
Why am I afraid of that? And it does help you.
It feels like it's holding mass, like space inside of you.
Yep.
So when it comes out, all of a sudden you feel like there's like room inside of you. Like, oh, I'm not carrying that around anymore.
Yep. Exactly.
And you're right. You do hear it usually and go, and that sounded like the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Right. Exactly. Like, wow. Okay. That's, yeah. You know, there's some fears that we have that are just totally irrational, and we realize that, and we don't know how to get past them, and we may never.
Right.
You know, you can't beat yourself up for that. There's always going to be those, but there are those ones that are irrational, and you can deal with them, and you can live a better life if you deal with them.
Right.
You know, think long term. So when you worry about something, or when you have the fear of something, and you're like coming up with all these different scenarios in your head, one of the things that this article said to do was to stop and to think about, am I bettering myself with this, or am I making the situation worse? And I've done this on different things for a long time. So it was kind of cool to see this in this article.
Yeah.
Is really stop yourself and say, I'm not doing myself any good with this fear, and redirect it, you know, because the more you play into it, like with me, used to be a hypochondriac, you know, and I would like read everything that I could. I was just playing into my own fears. It wasn't helping. No. I thought it was helping, but it was really just making it worse.
Yeah.
You know, you have to think long term.
Sure.
Educate yourself about the facts of your fear. We talked about that a little bit. Spend time with people that will help you face and conquer your fears. Especially, if you have different things that you've been held back on that you want to experience. If you want to, let's say you want to skydive, but you're afraid of heights and you know people that skydive, that's great.
Right.
Let them get that fear out of you. Let them, do those things with them. Because, you have this chance to live this life.
Yeah.
And that's also with finding good friends, because we had mentioned earlier that the people that are your people, you'll be attracted to them for similar things. You'll have similar things in common. Get help. If none of these other things have help, there's always therapy. And that can be very, very helpful.
Yeah, because like you said, just you're in an environment that's, it's confidential, it's safe, it's one-on-one, and you can get these things out. You can hear yourself say them.
Right.
I don't know if you have it on this list. Did you have more?
I do have a couple more.
Okay, go ahead.
No, tell me what you were going to say.
No, go ahead. I'd rather hear those.
The next one was be willing to fail and try again.
Yep.
Because a lot of times you fail once and you're like, that's it, I failed.
Yeah.
But you know what? Walt Disney failed how many hundreds of times on Disneyland, and he kept going.
I heard Steven Tyler say that too. Like, don't be afraid musically to make mistakes, because there are beautiful accidents that happen.
That's right. And those mistakes and those failures, they do a lot of times lead you to the path that you're supposed to be on and help you grow. Everything is it's a step in our story. It's not a failure. It's a step.
And it's a different perception, different angle.
Yeah.
The
last one on the list was focus on others for motivation. So for me, that's something that I really want to do for people. I want our listeners to look at us and say, these are two average people that are living an average life, but that are striving for their dreams and trying to conquer their fears. And I want people to feel motivated by that.
Yeah.
Whoever it is that does that for you.
That's good.
That's very important.
Right.
To find somebody that helps motivate you.
And my wrap, is that the last one?
Yeah.
The one I was going to add to that was, and you know what, if you're not really somebody that carries a lot of fear and has this in your life, I would consider you one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
So be that motivation.
Yes.
Be that somebody to, be that for somebody.
Absolutely.
Help them conquer their fear.
Right.
Give them suggestions. Show them.
Right.
If you can.
Right.
If you're a skydiver, somebody that really wants to, but they're scared, offer to do a tandem with them.
Right. There you go. Absolutely.
That kind of thing. I mean, that's another thing. If, like in my situation, I had a friend that was shy with girls, I would talk to him.
Yeah, help him out there.
About like what I would say, how I would go about it.
Yep.
Do that for each other.
Yep.
Because even if you're listening going, well, I'm really not crippled by fear a whole lot in my life. You can still play a role in this. You can still help.
Absolutely. You could be a very big role model to somebody, just by your experiences, for sure. Like, I've taken a lot of risk in my life. I feel that it's important, because if you don't take it, you don't know what's going to happen. And a lot of those risks that I've taken, especially business-wise, I've had people say to me, I envy you and how you just go out and get what you want. Yeah. Like, I wanted to do tours at Disneyland. I did tours at Disneyland.
Yeah.
I did it for a few years and I was over it. It wasn't a lifelong thing. But you know what? The fact that I was able to do that, it was something I never thought I could do. I did fear getting it started. I didn't think it would work. But it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And it just goes to show that whatever that fear is, you can go with it and hold yourself back, or you can say, you know what, I'm going to take a risk because what do I have to lose? If the answer is, if you say, what do I have to lose? And there's really nothing, then what's holding you back? In most cases, the worst answer will be no.
Yeah.
You may get a yes, whatever your fear, whatever you're working towards, you don't know, but you have to try.
I'd say compared to the old Danny, for me, I live in a lot less fear.
Oh yeah.
Than I used to.
And we need to remember, too, that what happens, it is a part of our story, and it happens for a reason. And people that are afraid of certain things, like we were talking about flying or of dying from the Rona, if those things were to happen to you, it's your story.
Yeah.
And as much as it sucks to hear that, because we don't want to think about the ways that some people have died and that being a part of their story, it is.
Yeah. I mean, start small if you want to face some of these things.
Yep.
Like, it could be as simple as, I just want to express to that person how much I love them, but I'm scared to do that. Just say I love you.
Right, exactly.
You know,
Yep.
small.
Small.
You don't
baby
have to
steps.
conquer it all today or tomorrow.
Right.
But if you know that you're trying to face some of those and telling yourself, this is my life. This is the life I have here now.
Right.
And do I want to live it, enjoy it, experience it, or do I want to be ruled by other entities
Yep.
and things?
And fears and and get to the end of my life and say, man, I wish I would have done this and this and this and this.
Yeah, I'm
Don't-
sure there's
yeah.
many people that got there that said that. And I might say, yeah, I wish I would have done this and this and this. But I feel like for the most part, I tackled most of what I've been afraid of.
Yeah. It is important.
Helicopter rides, I still haven't
No,
done that yet.
there are some things that I have to draw the line on. And sorry, helicopter's not
Yeah.
going to be on the list of things I'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So
just
anyways.
how that goes. So there is the fear factor.
There it is.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Well, it was good.
It was good.
And it's kind of a good reminder, especially in times like these,
Yep.
to
Stop. Slow down.
slow down,
Take a breath.
smell the roses,
Hmm. Think about things.
listen to your heart
logically.
and yourself and your loved ones, and think about these things. What is the world trying to tell us?
Right. And please take care of yourself, because this is a very stressful time. And one of the symptoms, so to speak, of fear and anxiety is things that happen to your body.
Yeah.
Headaches, problems sleeping, stomach issues, heart issues. You don't want this to cause those problems. So,
Yeah, and then get you feared that
Right.
you have
exactly.
coronavirus. You know what I mean?
Right. So keep yourself busy and, try to think positively. It is hard. I know there was something I mentioned to you earlier that one of the girls had mentioned, that she's afraid to be happy because she's afraid that the happiness will be taken away from her if she becomes too happy. And I hear that from a lot of people, that they are afraid of happiness. But the thing is it depends on what you look at as happiness.
Yes.
And if you think that your life is going to be roses every day for the rest of your life, it's not.
No.
It's none of us are going to have that.
And that, again, will be based on your perception.
Yes.
So if you're living a happy life and something sad happens,
Right.
will you choose to perceive it as changing your life forever and never being happy again?
Right.
Or will you choose to perceive it as this is a moment in time?
Yes.
And as we've heard, and I will say it again, time heals all.
That it does.
So
Yep. That's all we have is time, too.
that's all we have,
Yeah.
here and there.
Yep. Oh, yeah. If you want to think about how much time we have there, then you'll really be like, whew,
And if you're an eternal spirit, you got a lot of
a
time.
lot of time. Yeah. So enjoy this. It goes by really fast.
It does.
I had mentioned that in the shower today, thinking about, half my life behind me and half in front of me. And it's like, that's overwhelming, because you think about all the things that have happened, but then you still think like, well, is that enough time to do everything that I want to do? Will I be able to, because I'm getting older? I just got to stop.
I have that
and
fear
do
of running out of time.
Yes.
Like I feel like I've faced so many of my fears now, and maybe I waited too late in life to conquer some of those, but that's
Right.
okay. But I have, and now it's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to run out of time before I get to do the things that
Right.
all the things I want to do.
It's a fear of running out of time.
And then I realized, well, if I don't get to do all the things I want to
Yeah.
do, I get a chance to come back
Exactly. Do it all over again.
and do more.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, but cool. That was
There we
good.
go.
I liked it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Me too. Thank you.
Good job.
Yep.
Well, before we say goodbye, would you like to share your information?
Yes, let's do that. So you can find all my information on my website at SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. I've talked about my new business with my friend Chelsea called Velvet Psychics, where we do unlimited texting with one of us. If you would like more information on that, that's not up on the website yet. You can email us at velvetpsychics@gmail.com.
Cool.
Okay. And you, sir?
Oh, thank you. For my art, djonesartcollection.com, and for Facebook and Instagram at djonesartcollection, and for the music, gypsybrown.com on the web, for Instagram at Gypsy Brown Music, and for Facebook, Gypsy Brown Band, at Gypsy Brown Band.
Yeah.
And that's all I got.
Fantastic.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for listening in again.
Absolutely.
And we hope you guys have a great week. And until next week.
Peace and love.